Okay, can you see my screen now?
Yes, we can see your screen.
Okay, so good afternoon again. Okay. When we talk about safe spaces, we have to go back to sustainable SDG goal number 11, which is making all cities sustainable cities and the human settlement sustainable. So, and what goes with it is providing safe spaces for women, older persons, children, and persons with disabilities. Well, today is the International Day of Persons with Disabilities as declared by UN way back in the 90s. And it aims to promote the rights and well-being of persons with disabilities in all spheres of development. And this year's theme is leadership, participation of persons with disabilities towards an inclusive, accessible, and sustainable post-COVID world. And furthermore, it aims to increase awareness of the situation of persons with disabilities in every aspect of political, social, economic, and cultural life. Okay, so which means that we have to look at persons with disabilities as a part of human diversity, and they are everywhere. So SDG 11 aims to make cities and human settlements inclusive, safe, resilient, and sustainable. And with this, we are hoping to develop models of inclusive cities and communities that are inclusive, safe, resilient, and sustainable. And we also target to ensure access for all to adequate, safe, and affordable housing and basic services and upgrade slum. So we hope in the future, wala na mga squatters areas, but upgrade them into affordable and low-cost housing. And each community should have access to good health and well-being, quality education, decent work, and contributing to economic growth. And most of all, reducing inequalities. So these are the contents of sustainable cities and human settlement, which we are hoping can be achieved even from 2030 and beyond. And another target is to provide access to safe, affordable, accessible, and sustainable transport system for all, improving road safety. So, perhaps nakikita natin yung ating transport system is not really that accessible for all, especially for persons with disabilities. And the roads are not really safe for all of us. If it's not accessible, if it's not safe for you, how much more to persons with disabilities who could not even have access to better pedestrian lanes. And of course, we are also envisioning to enhance inclusive and sustainable urbanization and capacity for participatory, integrated, and sustainable human settlement planning and management. we are hoping that everyone can participate in the planning within every community. Like, for example, if persons with disabilities are engaged and their participations are encouraged or giving them the opportunity to participate, perhaps all services will improve for them, and not only for them, but for all. And what are safe spaces for the public, including persons with disabilities? Of course, before we can answer that question, we have to look at we have laws about safe spaces, no? Like we have the Republic Act number 11313 or the Safe Spaces Act, yung bawal ang bastos law. And the law covers all forms of gender-based sexual harassment committed in public spaces, educational or training institutions, workspaces, as well as online space. So when we say gender-based and sexual harassment, it's not only for women, but it's for all. For persons with disabilities, for older person, for women, for children, all populations, especially the vulnerable, are covered by this law. And even the all people, including you. And when we say public spaces, it refers to all places where public has access. Like, ayan, no, yung mga street alleys, public parks, schools and churches, government buildings, everything that lahat ng pinupuntahan ng mga tao, they are all covered by the Safe Spaces Act. And for persons with disabilities, what are safe spaces for us? And before we can answer that, we have to know who are persons with disabilities. According to the UN Article 1 of the UN Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities, they are described as persons include those who have long-term physical, mental, intellectual, or sensory impairment, which in interaction with various barriers may hinder their full and effective participation in society on an equal basis with others. So that is the description of person with disability. Na what you have to remember is impairment, interaction with various barriers, and which also affect their full participation. So, and how do we define disability? We define disability, a globally accepted definition of disability is one that is given by International Classification of Functioning. It's an umbrella term of impairments, activity limitations, participation restrictions, referring to the negative aspect of interaction between an individual with health condition and contextual factors. So, medical condition like diabetes, it causes disability when one of parts of your body, like for example, nagputulan ka ng paa, then that's the time that you will be called a person with disability, because you now have limitation, functional limitation in mobility. And you may also have a social restriction, like because of the disability, you lost self-esteem. And because of that, you cannot find work, and that prevents you from economic participation. So, hindi pwede na may diabetes ka lang, disabled ka na. The disability has to be present. Like, it's not only about physical disability caused by diabetes, but there are other disabilities resulting to having diabetes. So we have to be clear on that functional limitation must be present, and which also includes the negative action of the negative or having a barrier faced every day by a person with disability to fully participate. As you mentioned, no, some disabilities are classified as physical, which is caused by muscle and skeletal deformities or genetic disorder, which results to difficulty in mobility, and loss of because of loss of one or more parts of the body, stature, like people with people who have dwarfism, and those people who have other who got disability due to neurological disorder, loss of limbs, and hard of breathing. Because of that, they cannot work or they cannot fully participate in their daily life. We also have people who are blind, and we have to identify the limitations of persons who are blind and address them to increase their functionalities. Like, for example, if you're a blind person, you are using a cane. Have you imagined what is the purpose of the cane? It's an extension of their senses, so they can move around and function with increased mobility in walking and moving around the community. The deaf and the hard of hearing. The deaf needs sign language interpreter to fully participate in any discussion or learn. While those who are hard of hearing, they still have hearing, but very minimal, and they have the grasp of spoken and written language, so they can benefit from captioning and pen and paper communication. We also have people who have intellectual disability, which is characterized by significant limitation both in intellectual functioning, such as reasoning, learning, problem solving, and in adaptive behavior, which covers a range of everyday social and practical skills. When you say intellectual disabilities, they have limited understanding compared to people who have reached an average intelligence. So they may be biologically older, but their intellectual capacity may be of that of 4 to 7 years of age. And some of the causes of intellectual disabilities are genetic, like people with Down syndrome, people with neurodevelopmental disorders, brain damage, or due to chronic illness. And if we say people with autism, no, iba-iba rin yung degree ng kanilang intellectual capacity. Yung iba super intelligent in some aspect, like people who have the type of Asperger syndrome are really very high functioning, and they even have an IQ beyond the normal, which means that they have very high intelligence, while others have learning difficulties. And learning disabilities are neurologically based processing problems. These processing problems can interfere with learning basic skills such as reading, writing, or math. They can interfere with higher level skills such as organization, time planning, abstract reasoning, long or short-term memory, and attention. So this is common to people with ADHD or those who have attention deficit disorder. But we also have to look at the cases of these children, because they may have difficulty in learning, but if we give them the right modality for learning, they can really excel. So it's a matter of addressing their problems so that they can learn, because most of them cannot learn by just sitting down or just lecturing them. They would rather they learn more if they are part of the teaching or learning process. And of course, one of ito yung pinakamarami sa lahat, no? People with psychosocial disabilities, which refers to a spectrum of mental illness or disorders or conditions that influence our emotion, cognition, or behavior. And ito malaking usapin to, because they are not all the time having they are not all the time functioning, but because of how society treats people with psychosocial disabilities, most of them have breakdown, especially treatment from the family, the environment, which is not conducive for them. So sila talaga yung nangangailangan ng mga safe spaces within a family, within a community, and in a workplace, and all places where they go. And we have so many laws concerning persons with disabilities, no? Like we have the Batas Pambansa 344, or the Accessibility Law, an act enhancing mobility of disabled persons by requiring certain buildings or establishments and public utilities to install facilities and other devices. Like ngayon, nakikita natin, marami ng mga buildings ang nagko-comply na magkaroon ng ramps. They should have accessible toilets. They should have elevators, they should have signages, and people should address them in a politically correct way. And many are trained to become sensitive to their needs, so that stigma of having disability should decrease. So kaya nga, what is most safe for us? What places are really safe for us? Like ako, I grew up in an environment na yung mga ramps and other accessibility features were not yet installed, because people and building owners and even construction industry is not really aware of accessibility law. I feel more that I'm always in danger when I enter a building na kailangan akong buhatin so I can enter dahil ang entrance niya ay puro stairs. And during my days in the university, every day the school is always a struggle kasi I have to enter 3 steps and I cannot enter if nobody would help me or lift my wheelchair to enter the ground floor and go to my classes at the 3rd floor. So every day I feel that my life is always in danger. And every day I'm always denied of the right to transportation kahit may pambayad ako. Because taxi drivers are not aware on how to handle a passenger with disability. But there are drivers who are willing to learn. Pero most of the time, talaga naman, it's really a struggle to go to school or go to places you have to go. Like I used to live in a dormitory for people on wheelchairs. And every Sunday, we have to go to the mall. But the mall is not really accessible. So we always have to have an argument with the guards, no? Because they don't want to help and they just want to stand there. And it's the shoppers who help us enter the mall. So dahil kami matitigas ang ulo namin, no, kami mga estudyante kami noon. Every Sunday talagang sabay-sabay kami, mga 10 kami, pupunta kami sa mall. At tatawagin namin yung gwardiya, iakyat mo kami sa isa. So, you know, we made our struggle. Parang pinaprank na lang namin yung mga gwardiya para lang malaman nila na it's our right to enter the building because we also died. And this law was passed in 1983 pa, no? But until now, not many establishments are aware of this, especially those in the provinces. And that makes really roads, vehicles, transport facilities not safe for all of us. And aside from that, we want to take advantage of the 20% discount. So we have to go and experience how it is to have 20% discount at the mall. But you know, the mall is not really so accessible, and even the market is not accessible for us. But now I want to, and as I work as I become a professional in the disability field, I always dream of a building which will give every person with disability a sense of safety, sense of accessibility everywhere, and a sense of sense that this is a space that we should have in every community where we live. So way back in 2016, we studied in Australia on how to set up the Disability Resource Center. My idea then was to model a building for all local government units to replicate a building that will be a model of accessibility, not only in terms of physical environment, but also will establish accessibility in information and communication technology, where people with disabilities would learn to use information technology to their advantage. I also envision this building to be the venue of research, all active programs, all necessary programs for persons with disability should be there. People would go there and see what they can make, product, services. And example of how to set up a rehabilitation program. And this building should be managed by persons with disabilities affairs office. So I'd like to show you that the building is now realized and was open to the public in only last week or last month, November 17th. This is the National Disability Resource and Development Center, which we envision to be a breakthrough in establishing safe spaces for persons with disabilities. So this is the Disability Resource and Development Center at the compound of the National Council on Disability Affairs. It has ramps from the ground floor to the 7th floor. And look at the ramps. This is the ideal ramp that we want to achieve, to have everywhere. Unlike the ramps that we see, no? Yung mga parang mga suicidal. But this one is very good ang kanyang gradient. So, even if you're not having a motorized wheelchair, you can even go by yourself. So this is the very first building, perhaps in the whole Philippines, to have ramps from the ground floor to the 7th floor. Then at the 2nd floor, we have a multi-purpose room where which all learning sessions should take place. No? Actually, they can have at least 50 participants for seminars and workshops that they want to conduct. So, ito inauguration, and here all people know sign language. Yan. And there is also a library and computer center at the 2nd floor. Yan. So we open all the floors to the public with the current executive director of NCDA, no? And 2nd floor pa lang yan. Yan. And to the 3rd floor, meron sila ang mga facilities like prayer room, broadcasting room, where all the online webinars would be held. And buti na lang nauso na nga yung webinar, no? So they can reach people all over the Philippines. Yan. And that will be a venue for knowledge and skills building. And going to the fourth floor, these are accommodation accessible rooms where persons with disabilities have bathroom, accessible toilets, and a space, an accommodation space suited for to their needs. Yan. So we hope that in the future, all LGUs, and now we have already two buildings, like one in Taguig will soon open to the public, and another is in Dagupan, in the area vocational rehabilitation center. Ang favorite spot ko dyan, my favorite spot is the ramp. Because when you go up higher to the building, ayan, nakikita mo yung view of the city, no? And it's very refreshing, and you are above pollution. So this is really an ideal space for persons with disabilities to visit and to enrich themselves and build their dreams. So, and we hope that in the future, many disability resource and development centers will be set up in the whole country. Kaya dapat ipakita natin to sa mga mga architecture and engineering students so that they can use this to replicate. They can design according to the place. And dapat nga yan meron pang park or meron pang area for urban gardening, kaya lang maliit na yung lupa ng NCDA. So we only build at least 500 square meter building. But in other areas, malalaki yung mga lupa nila, so they can have a complete, they can even build a park, they can even build a sports and recreation center for persons with disabilities to fully participate and live independently in the community. And in this building, they will develop themselves to contribute in local governance. And with that, we hope that we can replicate this. So please help us. Thank you very much. And don't forget to follow my Facebook, Carmen Zubiaga, Pinik May Kapansana sa Senado, and also my Twitter account. Maraming salamat po sa inyong lahat. And we need young people who can lead and take active participation in building a better future for us. You really are the hope of the nation. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much po, Ms. Zubiaga. Truly, we learned so much po from what you stated. So, I think it's time for us to get into the questions that they have for us. So, I think we have some questions already. So, Ate Marge, okay, so here's the first question. So, what do you think was the hardest obstacle you had to overcome throughout your process?
Well, the hardest obstacle for me is to get education. You know, when I was young, when I graduated from elementary, I thought I could no longer go to school because of accessibility. No, there's only one school dun sa bayan namin, and it's not accessible and even very expensive. So my parents was not able to send me to school. Instead, I stayed home for 10 years. But after 10 years, I decided that I cannot live like this. I know that there is something in store for me. So I have to find my way to go to school. So, yon. And thanks, there are many people who helped me. And nakatapos din ako. And I was able to get into disability rights advocacy. I worked with Tahanang Walang Hagdanan, and that was the time when I saw that I am even luckier because I can be independent and I can move around by myself while others are really confined to their places kasi nga because of lack of self-esteem, hindi sila adventurer like me, and they lack the courage to go out and face people who are discriminating them. So for me, okay lang yun because I know that I have the ability, I have the capacity at sanay akong makipag-debate sa kanila. And I know how to defend myself. So, but people whom I think needs a voice, need someone to defend them. Kaya doon ko naisip na instead of building a dream for my own, I have to build my dream with them. And the dream is an inclusive community for all. And where all persons with disabilities have their, can share their talents and abilities also to help other people in their own community. So I work on community-based rehabilitation. I work in Cambodia, which is more harder. A place very hard to live for persons with disabilities, but I knew that I was able to make an impact in the lives of persons with disabilities in Cambodia. Kasi doon walang person with disabilities na namamalengke, ako lang. Ang mga person with disabilities doon ay nakaupo sa sidewalk at namamalimos. So, pag nakikita nila ako, yan. So, that is really providing them a good model that we too can become contributing members of our society.
Thank you po, ma'am. Okay, I agree po. If no one's going to defend you po, then you will be the trailblazer for them. Ayan.
Right.
So, Miss Marge, Ate Marge, what's our other question?
Ito po for the other question, Miss. What do you wish more people knew about persons with disabilities po?
Ano yung wish ko for them?
Well, I wish more people, yung other people knew po about persons with disabilities.
Well, I think that more people should know that it's not about how you look, but it's what's inside your mind and what's inside your heart. Because many people, if they look at a person, judgmental sila agad. But me, when I live with person with disabilities, that's the time that I learned not to judge them according to how they look. I have to talk to them. Minsan kasi akala natin, especially for people who had cerebral palsy. Because, their looks are deceiving. If you look at them, you will think that they cannot say anything. But if you talk to them, most of them are really intelligent and can contribute to society. Only we have to give them the chance. I wish all people would learn how to give chance to persons with disabilities to prove themselves. Ako kasi, I grew up always proving myself. that I proved to my teachers that I can't be a burden to them. Kasi tinanggihan ako sa school, ayaw akong tanggapin, baka daw maging burden ako. And I proved to them that I can also be a pride of the school. So I joined all the contests. Ayun, so far nananalo naman at then I gave glory to my school. So that again, I broke all the stereotypes, and I love breaking stereotypes.
Ayun po, I agree
Thank you
po.
po.
I don't think that every single person who has a disability should be treated as someone that shouldn't be heard. Opo. Because
Right.
I think, ayun po, we just need to be more patient. I think everybody just needs to be more patient. I think that we need to know that not everyone is the same in terms of learning, in terms of doing certain things. And I think it's easier to accept and shun them away. Okay po, so thank you so much again po, Miss Carmen Zubiaga, for accepting our invitation to be our guest and for taking the time to share your knowledge with us.